Yes, I am the new executive director for the Illinois Labor History Society. We are the oldest labor history society here in the United States. We were founded in 1969. So what I'm going to talk about today is, everything that you're doing is about rising up. And so you've all been talking about Jane Addams. I'm sure you've talked about Mother Jones. Everybody knows those names. Three of the names that I'm going to talk about today and how they became activists and things are people that are known. If you're from Chicago, you've probably heard these three names, and that's Lucy Parsons, Regina Polk, and Addie Wyatt. If you're not from Chicago, then these are names you probably haven't heard of. But before we get to talking about them, we're going to talk about just a few statistics. Because in my opinion, what these women did is where this fight comes from for equal pay. But in order to understand that fight, of course, you have to have the statistics. Now, keep in mind, I'm an Indiana girl, even though I work here in Chicago. I grew up in Northwest Indiana, so I always have to include Indiana on everything when I do something. Because my board members, they don't seem to get the concept that Northwest Indiana, which is Lake and Porter County, that Chicago is just a suburb to us, but they seem to think it's the other way around, and I know better because, we have BP oil and we have U.S. Steel and all that, so, I do sometimes remember. But the state of affairs for equal pay for women, if you look at Illinois, if they keep passing things the way they're passing, we're looking at 2065. Hopefully I'll have grandchildren by then. But it's not fast enough. Indiana's even worse in 2086, but then again, we grew my plans, so I apologize for that.
Oh, I can't.
But nationwide, we make 78 cents to the dollar a man does. The only way I can tell you, because I'm a former Teamster, I was an organizer for the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. I traveled all over the United States organizing school bus drivers. And I can tell you this, the only way a woman can guarantee equal pay is through a union contract. A union contract is the only thing you will see that it does not look at color, it does not look at sexuality, it does not look at gender. It is one person, no matter who you are, and you're all the same across the board. And so that's why, I'm very pro-union, and was before I even took this position. So I just wanted to, like I said, go over some of the statistics of where they're projecting things to go. But three women who definitely fought for equal pay is Lucy Parsons, Regina Polk, and Reverend Addie Wyatt. Now, Lucy Parsons, when you go back and you look at Lucy and you look at things, of course, the first thing anybody says with Lucy is Haymarket, because she is, as all of us have been claimed at one point, the wife of Albert Parsons, the wife of one of the Haymarket martyrs. She was so much more than that. She stood up for what she thought was right. She went on hunger strikes. Yes, did she have to make money to feed her children and things like that and sell the speeches and things that her husband gave and use that to have an income? Yes, she did. But she was also one of them that helped founded the Wobblies. She was well before Haymarket. She wrote just as many articles as her husband in the Alarm. She went to just as many protests. She was in just as much of demand to speak at strikes and at picket lines as her husband. But unfortunately, those who write our history, all she is the wife of one of the Haymarket martyrs. And so she is not. She gave speeches here. She used to go on barges down the Chicago River. Why? Because she was not allowed to speak or pass out literature here in Chicago. Guess what? The river wasn't Chicago. The river is federal. So she could get away with it then. She did whatever she had to do. She traveled all over the place. And she didn't talk just about workers' rights. You hear she did say she was an anarchist. But when you look at that now, it's just like, accusing Bernie Sanders of being a communist. He's not. He's a democratic socialist. And that's one of the things throughout history is that the language changes. I mean, let's look at Lucy Parsons' time. If you said you were gay, you were happy. If you say that now, you're not happy. You're homosexual, and that's okay. But language changes. So I really think if you were to put Lucy Parsons into the context of today, she would be just like Bernie Sanders. She'd be the democratic socialist, and she would stand for the little people. But one of the things, in January of 1915, she pushed not only the American Federation of Labor, the Socialist Party, and she was with Hull House to participate in a huge demonstration that when they decided to, start decentralizing for hunger and unemployment. I don't know how many times the poor woman was in jail. And it wasn't just Chicago, but they did deem her as that she was more dangerous than 1,000 riders. Because when she spoke, people listened. And that's one of the things about these three women today that I would like you to take away, is that if you see something you don't like, stand up, say something. It's okay. Biggest compliment anybody could ever give me is refer to me, you're acting just like her. Well, heck yeah, let's go. I'm ready. But again, she was one of the major founders of the Socialist Party here. She helped form the Wobblies. She unfortunately died in a house fire under suspicious circumstances, but she was a great woman. She really was. We were honored this year on May 1st, which is International Labor Day, of course, that on North Kedzie, the corner of North Kedzie and Wellington, they finally named Lucy Parsons Way. And so we were honored to be there and to be a part of that. And it was finally we are recognizing someone who's extremely important, especially not to just labor history, but just to history in general. Now the next one that I want to speak about is Regina Polk. And just to raise your hands real quick, how many of you have heard of Regina Polk? It's two.
I know the street.
Three. No, that's a Polk Street, but that's not after Regina Polk. Regina Polk was a Teamster. And this is why I know her story, because I am too. I was a Teamster. And Regina was near and dear to my heart, because I tell you what, she was one of those that she was completely and totally a feminist. She believed that everybody had the same right to the same pay and everything else, but that woman showed up everything dressed to the nines, pearls, hats, the whole 9 yards. She was just all around great. But what happened, and she broke into the Teamsters Union here in Chicago. And if anybody knows anything about the Teamsters in Chicago, it's mostly male, it's mostly white. Not as much today, but back then when she came in, it was all men. And she was actually working in a restaurant. She decided to organize the workers in the restaurant, and of course she got fired, but 6 months later, that restaurant, those employees, they did organize with Teamster 743. And so they saw her drive, and they saw her ability to talk to people, and they hired her on as an organizer. Regina then turned around and became one of the first women here in Chicago in Joint Council 25 that got elected to a vice president position at Local 743. I mean, she's just done she did all kinds of different things. One of the great things about Regina Polk, and if you do happen to be in a union, that center picture, because she was killed in a plane crash going down to Southern Illinois to help on working with women and getting proper training, because so many had been laid off because of automation and things. And she fought very hard to get new training so that these women could keep their jobs. Well, when she passed in the plane accident, the money from that accident, the family took and put into a fund. University of Illinois in Champaign every year puts on the Regina Polk Conference, and it's for union women. There are scholarships available. The new in January it'll come up again, but it's about 40 to 50 women. It's all paid for, and it's to bring women together that are in a union, because even though we're equal on that contract, sometimes we're still not equal within our union. And so they teach us ways to, you know, how to deal with things, and things along those lines. But she was but that's the class from this year for Regina Polk, and that happens every year. The next one I want to talk about a bit, and I heard that some of you heard about her last night, is Reverend Addie Wyatt. Now, Reverend Addie Wyatt, I unfortunately never got the opportunity to meet her. I would have loved to have, because not only was she about women's rights, but she was about racial rights and equality. She decided one day that she needed to get a job to help feed the family, and went to the armor plant and wanted a job as a secretary. Well, unfortunately, she couldn't get that job as a secretary because she was black. So they put her filling sausages and things like that. And she was only going to work that job for Christmas money. Well, you know, 30-some years later, she finally retired from Amalgamated, but she fought, and she fought hard. She was one of the founders of CLU, which is the Coalition of Labor Women, which is here in Chicago. She was also a founding member of the Coalition of Black Trade Unionists. Guess what? Local 1, here in Chicago. And she did all kinds of things. She was named Women of the Year by Time Magazine in 1975, and she hated it. She hated it because she felt that she was picked because of her color, not because of what she did. Even though if you know about her and you read about her, you know that there's so much more, and it was well-deserving, but she didn't feel so. She didn't feel that way.
Those two senators.
The other thing that she was a major part of here in Chicago was NOW. But in regards to these three women, and the reason why I bring this up is they all started somewhere. They all were just normal, regular, everyday women who decided it wasn't something they liked. And they stood up, and they took notice, and they made sure everybody around them took notice too, and stopped and listened to what they said. So that's the message that I want to point out, is that our history of what the women before us have done, we can take that, we can build on that history, and we can make our own history. Because my thing is to talk about the future of organizing and the future of being an activist. We are that future. You are that future. Because if you don't stand up and say, I don't like this, then who's going to do it? We can't sit and wait for, oh, well, I'll just make a Facebook post. And that'll be good. I've had my say. We need more than that. I'll tell you, I grew up in a union family. My father was a Teamster for 43 years and he retired. My grandfather was USW. My other grandfather was an operating engineer. So I always grew up that if you had a job, well, by God, you had a union card. That was just how it was. If you didn't have a union card, well, you weren't allowed in the house. I thought that was normal. I didn't know it wasn't normal. But one of the great things, though, is I took what I knew growing up in a union household, and I've been able to apply that to what I don't do, to those who don't know about unions, to be able to talk about that and to tell them why we still need them. We still need those collective bargaining rights. We still need all of that. And so that's my issue that I stand up for. I am damn proud to say that I was here in January and I was down in Grant Park when we were supposed to march, but too many of us women showed up for the march and we couldn't march because there were just too many of us. I'm sorry. But one of the things that I took away from that march and all of the speakers that were there that day, it wasn't just about one thing. It was about everything. Everybody had a chance to talk. Everybody had a chance to have their voice be heard. And I got to talk to women about issues that I knew nothing about. Because that's where it comes, where you're that future. Is if you don't know, ask a question. Ask somebody who knows. Learn. Because that's where we'll get them in the end on any organization, on any activism, is education. because the more you know, the more power you've got. So that's what I mean by letting everybody know that we are those ground troops. We are the ones that will stand up in the end. Now, of course, being the director of ILHS, I have to put in my ILHS plug. So I couldn't not do it. We do have an online bookstore, and in our online bookstore, there are 3 books. We have over 100 books in our bookstore, but on Lucy Parsons, on Regina Polk, and on Reverend Addie Wyatt. All 3 together are $59.95. But for this conference, if you go online and you make that order, and it'll ask you for a promo code. If you put the promo code, and I do have flyers with the promo code on it, you do get free shipping. So we did do that, and so that you can learn more, because I know I didn't touch on it, and I know y'all want to go to Hull House, and that is so way cool to work, by the way. I'm so envious. I would love to, but again, I'm from Northwest Indiana, and Pierogi Fest is going on, and so I'm going to get my pierogi home. But you can find us. We are online. We do have a website, IllinoisLaborHistory.org. We are now on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. We have our own hashtag. I was looking, I didn't see if you guys had one, but I've been trying to post things so that we can bring, multiple generations together and keep putting that word out there. Are there any questions?
Pass around the mic. Someone up, pass around the mic.
No, just keep the slide before this, so we can look at the books. That's all. Just keep that slide up.
Not a problem, and that's on. There is a flyer here that has all 3 books on it, and the price of each individual book. But whether you order all 3 or you just order one, as long as you put that shipping code in, it is free shipping, and that code ends on Friday, August 12th. Yes, ma'am.
I understand that what made the Scandinavian revolutions happen was that their labor unions, you were a member of the union whether you were unemployed or not. So when you lost your job, the movement grew rather than shrinking. I'm wondering if that is a possibility for the future of our unions.
Well, it depends on each individual union, and on other unions I can't talk. I can tell you about the Teamsters. And the way it's written into the Constitution, because I was an organizer and then I chose not to be an organizer because I was traveling too much. I was gone 10 days, home for 4, and I wanted my own bed again. So I then went on what we call the out of works list. And so I was still actively seeking. I would get a call if a job would come up. But my problem as a Teamster and finding another position is I don't have a CDL because I can barely drive my car, let alone a big rig. And so I'll leave my husband to do that because he's great at that. And I lucked out and was able to get this job. But there is, within the Teamsters, you do have that option. That if you get laid off, you put your name on the out of works list, and then they help you get back into another job. But not all are the same way. And it's one of those things that there's so many other fights going on by trying to get, collective bargaining, trying to get better wages and things, that sometimes they don't look at those little things. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether you could talk a little bit about the labor movement in Chicago right now and dealing with your mayor. I mean, I know that...
He's not my mayor, I'm from Indiana.
Or your governor.
I mean...
No, he's not my governor either, I'm from Indiana. Unfortunately, you can pin pets on him.
I mean, there have been so many struggles here with the teachers' union and everything else, and but I know that there's a very powerful progressive movement, and in These Times magazine, which is a wonderful, it comes out every month.
It comes out every month, yes.
Democratic socialism. So could you just talk about what's going on now?
What's going on now is, what we do at the Illinois Labor History Society is we try to work in conjunction with everybody because we are the deed holders for Haymarket and for the Martyrs. And so May 1st is normally a very big day because it's International Workers' Day. And we did a lot where we marched and things like that. Everybody's fighting for the same thing, but everybody's kind of still, you've got the teachers fighting for theirs, you've got the, and what I would like to see, and it's what the Chicago Federation of Labor is doing, is putting that coalition together to bring everybody together. Right now, the fight is, of course, with Browner and they finally got a budget passed. I don't know how good that budget is, but it's passed. But they still, there's the stickler in the side of it is teachers' pensions. You know, and unfortunately, you've got too many people who don't understand what a pension is, and that they just think it's free money, and it's not. It's earned. We worked hard for those pensions. We deserve those pensions, and we deserve to see the payment on those pensions. It's not our fault that the state mismanaged their money, but boy, they come after us when we mismanage ours. But there's been a lot of you know, I'm at Roosevelt University is where our office is, and I'm up on the 18th floor, and I get to see Buckingham Fountain. And one of the things that, as the summers progress, I'm seeing a lot more of is I'm seeing a lot more protests and people getting together and standing up, because up until probably up until the Mingo ended in the White House, it was everybody kind of did their own thing. But he's kind of, I hate to say he's done something good. Oh, dear Lord. But the good that he has done is he's brought all of us who were pissed off together, you know? And so I think to be able to continue that fight and to be able to continue on is that we, you know, if you're not a teacher, look at what the problems that the teachers are having. Get involved, support them, because you know what? They're teaching our future. You know, look at some of these others about why, you know, why ASME is fighting right now. They're the biggest union in the state for public sector employees. Those public sector employees are people that do in-home nursing for disabled, for the elderly, things along those lines. Look at those issues. There's so much that is broad that we can all become a part of and support. You know, for so many years, unions, you say the word union, it's a bad thing. And it's not. And if we can get over that media stigma that they've stuck us with for years and come together, you know, all the crap began. We need to come together for the greater good. Because if we don't come together and we start bickering at the little things, then we're never going to get there for the big picture. And that's what we need, is that big picture. And of course, everybody showing up on election day and saying, bye, see ya, with putting people in there. Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to add to what you just talked about, because I am a Chicago person here and a labor activist in my union. I'm a member of the University of Professionals of Illinois, which is the faculty and resource professionals at the public universities across the state of Illinois. And our brothers and sisters in ASME, who do a lot of the office work and so on, are experiencing layoffs. And I know the speaker last night talked about that because of the state budget. But one of the things, in addition to what you were talking about, a lot of the unions, you know, the unionization has changed so much across the United States because of the loss of manufacturing jobs. And the remaining strongholds for union membership now tend to be in public sector jobs, and yet those are the very jobs that are under attack in our kind of neoliberal economy. This long period since Reagan started it of attacking workers' organizing.
Actually, it goes back to Nixon.
Well, yeah. Reagan was the most successful, I guess. He got the success rolling with destroying unions. But one of the strategies that we're using is to not just focus on organizing workers into unions, because the barriers to that are often so high, but also to work in coalition with other fights that are supportive of workers. So for example, the Fight for 15 is very strong here. We've had several big marches, which you've probably seen from your windows.
Yeah. I participated in quite a few.
And yes, even in the rain sometimes, right? April 29th. So those there, and then there are other organizations that connect with other issues that I know have been talked about at this meeting, like immigrants' rights. So for example, I work with an organization called the Latino Union, which is a worker center. They're not unionizing people, but they are supporting workers to have their human rights met. So I just wanted to add that to the Chicago picture of what's going on in the labor movement.
It's one of the best ways to describe it, like I said, is education. Know about somebody else. I mean, it's so easy to sit at home and look at what affects your life only. Start looking at what affects others. Include that in. You know, talk to a Republican. You might learn something, maybe. I don't know. Maybe wishful thinking on my part. But, you know, talk to someone who you wouldn't normally talk to. Learn something. Because once you learn something, then all of a sudden you have this thing called empathy and understanding. And that's what's going to get us through all the turmoil and get us through the fight and get us to where we need to be. Yes, ma'am.
Just another piece of Chicago history or Chicago at the moment. One of the connections we can make with what's happening with jobs is when a big construction company starts contracting out the trade pieces of the work that's getting done to smaller contractors. That's where we lose union jobs. So, for instance, McCormick Place used to be a perfect venue for good, solid jobs, years and years and years and years. Now, McCormick Place, which is the big Chicago Convention Center, is full of contractors who may or may not hire union tradesmen. So it has caused a tremendous shift in the Chicago economy because jobs that were once solid, trades that were solid, are no longer that way. You can get a union card as an electrician, but it doesn't guarantee a job or a steady job.
Exactly. You know, my husband has been a Teamster for 19 years, and he works road construction. And so when it snows, he's home. You know, that's been the law of the land for as long as I can remember because my father did the same thing. But, you know, we're starting to see that starting to turn around because there are those coalitions in place. Because you don't have just the Teamsters on the job and the pipe fitters and IBEW and the laborers. Now you have the Chicago Building and Trades, which is all of them together fighting to have that job and fighting to have all of those workers fall under a union contract. Because let's face it, when you have union contractors out working on a job, your safety rate is exponentially higher. I mean, you know, other things to look at within the labor movement. You can go to Ottawa, Illinois, which is about an hour and a half drive from here. And there's this place called the Radium Girls. There's a nice monument because these girls worked in a clock factory. They painted uranium on the face of watches so that you could see them, and told them, well, you know what, you need a finer tip and you need a better line, so go ahead and take that paintbrush with the uranium on it and rub it on your tongue. It won't do anything. Guess what? Ottawa, Illinois is a super site. Every month they fly over. 13 spots in Ottawa. They still have huge radium levels that show up on the pictures. Guess where it's from? The women that are buried. That's where they're from. But because of that, and because of what happened, because it was in Ottawa and it was in New Jersey, we now have OSHA. OSHA came out of the Radium Girls. We got those laws. So yes, 9 times out of 10, something catastrophic like that has to happen, but we get something out of it in the end, so things like that don't happen again. So that's all I can recommend to anybody is if you see something you don't like, stand up and say so. And stick with it. You can't just stand up and say, I don't like it, and then go home. No, if you're going to say I don't like it, well then, by God, stand up there, put your name on the line, and let's trudge forward.
Thank you, Stephanie. We'll stand up. We're going to the Hull House Museum, and what I say museum, what do you think about?
Because we're supposedly coming back. and-
Boring.
Hotels.
She said that I didn't say it. It's,
Because she's been there.
oh, no.
Exciting.
Okay, when I went to, yes, exciting. When I went to the, oh, she's gone now, but Jan and Chris and I went to look over the museum and introduce. We've been there. I put on for Jane Addams. I've been working with Hull House for a long time, and but Chris hadn't seen it, so she went around, was excited, and while she was touring, I was sitting down with the director and the tour director, the director of Hull House and the tour director, and I was saying, Jane isn't a museum, and their eyes kind of go, okay. I say, I thought, maybe you could show what she has done and the impact that is still living today. And that sort of glazed eyes. And that's what we're going to do today. If you want to look and have the tradition which started, and actually started at Hull House, much like WILPF. Because at the turn of the century, the first women's union, national union, was formed at Hull House. It was called the Women's Trade Union League. It was around 1909. And this came out of a realization of Jane Addams and the evolution of her thought. She came to our issues, the issues that we have today, of poverty, of immigration, of homelessness. She came to it as a very privileged person. She came to it as some of you may have thought or have done or have relatives who have done, to be charitable at first, to look at it that way. But her thought was changed, not only by her evolution of education, but the fact that she took into herself the task of saying, wait a minute, this isn't charity that I want to do. This is change. This is action that I want to do. This is part of not the self-righteous benevolence that we often see. This was an action-oriented, creative force. And I can give